The summer is here. This is where the summer starts. Domestic cricket is back, grade cricket is back, and the death of cricket is, of course, back. It's already been the hottest September in Victoria ever. Sydney's already had their hottest October ever. The summer starts now. On the show today, a treat for the eyes, a treat for the ears. That's right, Dan Brettig is on the show. Also, Spencer Johnson is on the show, speaking of little treats. Pezza, first of all, how are you?
Well, thank you.
Welcome to the summer.
Oh, thanks very much. Welcome to you.
This is where it starts. Thank you. Now, the World Cup obviously starts this week, but then obviously we're getting all the way through after our elongated summer in the sense that we're playing test matches into January, late January this year. And then Australia go to New Zealand for a couple of tests, a couple of white ball games over there. And so before you know it, it's going to be April and it's going to be beautiful weather. Beautiful weather in April. Now, people think that's football season. No, that's going to be 27 degrees and perfectly sunny for me.
Mate, I take your point. That's the vibe in Australia if you're listening from around the world. I mean, arguably it's spring, but really it's summer. Footy grand finals done. Both excellent games.
Yep.
One code talking very earnestly about was it the greatest ever? The other just saying, great game.
It was good.
Play on. There is some sun around, he goes. Some might say a concerning amount. But spring is also in the air from the olfactory perspective. Your lilacs, your lavenders, your lily of the valley. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I am.
Very, very sensory time down in the southeast of Australia. And then you've got the trappings for the eyes. They emerged this weekend. Here goes. I feel like I sort of should replace your name with Mr. Speaker with the way I'm talking, but on the weekend, driving around, grand final weekend, but that also corresponds with cricket coming back.
Yeah, it's the
Any cricketer knows that. First
cricket,
game of grade cricket corresponds with the grand final weekend. You're driving around and the trappings for the eyes have changed. You're not seeing the Aussie rules post down here in Melbourne anymore. You're seeing blokes fielding in blinding ice cream whites, acquired at a Rebel Sport or a Greg Chappell Cricket Centre, not a sponsor. Not yet dirt stained. That's why it's blinding ice cream white. Might have a green or a gold trimming. Might even be a little bit gaudy. They might have one sponsor on it or two, a construction company, a local medical centre,
if
you will.
Yes.
Service station Oakleys are being worn, and along with a 5 to 8 year old floppy hat.
Yep.
Which is a strange mix of cream and brown. Maybe black trainers.
Yeah.
Maybe black trainers and an AstroTurf pitch.
Yuck.
That is the sensory experience of Australia right now, and harrowing stories on ABC radio about fires in Gippsland State Forest. And it's just turned October.
The markings from the 50-metre arc around these local suburban grounds washed away, and now we're seeing bindies. And by that I mean, much like the Richies, these are people just dress up like Bindi Irwin.
I'd go for that, by the way.
The bindies.
Sure. Oh, look, great. And as you said, so a lot of club cricket came back. But what they try and call now as a ridiculous marketing confection, Premier cricket.
Yeah.
Returned over the weekend. Sydney first grade kicked off with a T20 comp. One group playing a mini carnival out at Benson's Lane, Hawkesbury, round one, Benson's Lane. And you know what? Steve O'Keefe, back at his old club, Hawkesbury, took his young charges through to the semi-finals.
Wow.
Steve O'Keefe dusting poor blokes in first grade, possibly top 2 or 3 spinners in this country at T20 level, just out there at Owen Earl doing the business.
In twos as well.
Yeah, that's right. Well, other blokes who should be playing twos you've never heard of, mainly failing. Privately wondering whether, pre-season's made any difference to their physical and mental capabilities. So cricket's back. Cricket
is back. And I know, obviously, the main story of this week is the World Cup starts on Thursday night here in this country.
Big cricket.
That's the real stuff. And it's England, New Zealand, but there's a whole heap of stuff before then. And, we had our dear patrons, the people that have got behind TGC and, supported TGC through the hard times. Not many good times. Tom, via Patreon, wrote in.
What was this? Overnight?
This was overnight.
Okay, yeah.
Overnight, Tom wrote in. And he said, it was just a DM. He said, proof you've made it when people edit the TGC Wikipedia page saying you're homosexuals. Wonder if this has any links to sauce on blimp or shoving coin/gum in your cock. Cheers. So, first thing I did there, Pezza, just jumped on the old Wikipedia there. The grey cricketer. The grey cricketer is the pen name of 3 Australian cricket writers, Sam Perry, Dave Edwards and Ian Higgins. They were friends who played grey cricket in Australia and began a Twitter account as @greycricketer. They subsequently wrote books and columns and host a podcast. They are also all homosexuals.
Now, the best bit about this, he goes, apart from the multiple inaccuracies, see, I started, is that when it says, actually, firstly, I just want to say, when Tom wrote in and said your Wikipedia page has been updated, I was fucking cheering because it hasn't been updated since episode 131. So if anyone wants to get out there and update it, I just didn't realise that the update. The best bit about this, though, is... That's right. In the first few sentences alone.
No, I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why am I last?
I'm not a writer.
I know what you're about to say. I did the same thing.
So the best bit about this, as you look at it on screen, is that when it gets down to the line in question, they are also all homosexuals. That's when the footnotes come in.
And there's 3 references.
So there's no footnotes to the other ones, but then there's 3 references. Perfect vandalism.
Perfect.
And it doesn't end there.
No, so then you go down to the live shows tab. The Grey Cricketer has presented live shows over multiple Australian summers and the English summer of 2019 during the 2019 World Cup and 2019 Ashes. The live shows, like the podcast, all normally feature guests. They also like to kiss each other during the show. It's basically tattoo. Yeah, but that's basically what we're doing. We're just
we had Stoinis at a live show. It wouldn't be bad. Like you get the chance to vandalise.
Yeah,
know? It's quite a pure like piece of vandalism, though, isn't it? Well, what am I going to say here?
Yeah.
They'd like to kiss each other during the show. I mean...
We'd sell more tickets.
It would be good. Who'd be vandalising our Wikipedia? I'm thinking it could be, could be Ash's enemies.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Blokes who called, like, Australians who called things out as freaks.
Yeah.
Or, like, people who got upset that, like, the Bairstow video was funny but not the other one. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And here are the parts about the Bairstow video that were funny and weren't, etc. There was a group of people that might be.
Yeah, could be.
Now, I said, well, the square up is clearly to get on Wikipedia and say they kiss each other.
Yeah. Yeah, could be. Could be my boyfriend.
Could just be people who came to the live shows and saw what happened.
That's right.
People who know us.
Anyway, just on the so Tom wrote in via Patreon. And if you want to support TJC, you can support us by joining our Patreon, patreon.com/greycricket. I said last week, you can also get the Patreon feed now on Spotify. You can just search TJC Patreon on Spotify on the app there. You can unlock the episodes available there on the feed, just logging your details and away you go. So during the World Cup, our schedule is, of course, #AskTJC Fridays. That doesn't stop. That runs all the way through the tournament. That's every single Friday.
Every week, your questions, loose, dark, raw. 45 extra minutes of podcast.
We have also recorded 10 previews of each team participating and indeed competing in the World Cup. They will be released. I think we've done 6 now, 7 including today. I think Australia's going to come out today, that preview there. So we've done all the teams and then we've got 3 left to come out before Thursday's match. Then we're also doing reviews for India, Pakistan, England, Australia. Every single one of those games involving those teams, we'll do a review. If you only just listen through TJC instead of watch the stuff through the eyeballs there, you can subscribe to patreon.com/greycricketer. Pez, just before we get into the World Cup, I know it's the big story, but domestic cricket is back. I mean, domestic, like, it's just in the air again. It's obviously raining today, so explain that, Pat Cummins, solar panel Pat. But
he won BBC's Green Sports Athlete of the Year, by the way.
That's the big one.
Yeah,
that's the big one.
That's just going to unleash the trolls again.
But you actually went to a domestic cricket game yourself.
Mate, more than that. I honestly think that, like, we're doing this cast every week. This is the main cast. This is the conglomerate of everything happening in cricket. Cricket isn't just fucking now that's a flashback. Cricket isn't just big cricket, sponsored by, corporates with deep pockets
Yeah.
and genetic freaks. You know, cricket's a lot of shit. That's what this cast is meant to be. So I think opening with domestic cricket is entirely appropriate. My domestic cricket kind of experience in the last couple of weeks has been like varied and deep. So I'm going to start at the Junction Oval.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago at the invitation of the titan of cricket writing, Gideon Haigh. I joined him at his Yarras Club nets on a Thursday evening.
Right.
Yeah, no, I see you're concerned.
Well, no, only because his team's sponsored by Aramco.
Yes. There's bulk bunts involved.
Yeah.
And like I wouldn't have faced human pace bowling for 5 years.
Human pace bowling.
Human pace bowling. We were in a net. We were in a ball machine last year.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah, with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I approached the. Can I talk about the experience of actually
welcome it.
playing cricket?
I welcome it. What's that like?
Well, I approach the occasion with ambition. You
Okay.
know?
Yeah, right. Hope in your heart.
Well, yeah. Finally, like unshackled from the anxiety of attainment in cricket, like through performance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm a wizened man now, pushing 40 with a wife and 2 children.
Must be nice.
I wanted to use the stage, you know, to launch the identity of the cricketer that I always wanted to be.
Oh, okay. Now's
Right.
the time.
Now's the time.
Okay.
Cavalier and swashbuckling with the blade. You know, feet closer together, hands higher on the bat to maximize leverage. Looking to score first and defend second. You know, Bazball, if you will.
Okay.
Now, so that was my ambition. Turn up to the nets.
Yeah.
I told you this. Wearing. So I don't have I don't play for this club, right? I've been around it before. Played one game 6 years ago.
Yeah.
For the club. I just know Gideon. He invited me down to a net. You know, to talk shop. That's how we do business.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
The nets. A lot of people do golf or pub.
Yep.
And I don't have any of this gear. So I wore. What would you wear in that situation?
Activewear.
Like a.
Well, just
Skins.
no. Activewear just being just shorts and a t-shirt.
As if you were going to the black. I wore a black t-shirt.
Yep.
Nike sponsored.
Yeah. Sponsored. Yes. Yeah.
And black shorts.
Okay.
Right. And
Yeah.
you know, just some runners or something.
That's what I would have thought.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, turn up. Bloke says to me they're all in there like white South Yarra. Not playing kit, like the training kit, white with some sponsors on it, blue shorts. And he goes, not in a white shirt, that's Village. And I'm like, I'll just be polite. Huh?
Yeah.
Internal crow's feet.
Yeah.
Deluxe. I'm fucking sideshow bomb.
So their training shirt is a white shirt.
Oh, no, it's the training t-shirt. Training shirt is white with some sponsors and paraphernalia.
Sure,
written word.
Yeah, local sort of rub and tugs. 20% off your next hand job. But
Yep. That's it. And immediately I'm just told what I've done. I've turned up the Village, black t-shirt and shorts.
Well, what's up? Some guy's seen you and he's trying to out for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway. Yeah, sideshow Bob was shuddering inside, and then
stepping on rakes.
Because if you're turning up to a club first time, you're not wearing playing whites unless you are looking for, someone from the AFP following you.
Yeah.
You know, actors wear black. You know, actors take on different roles. It's a very neutral color, creates a sort of blank slate where the perception of your character is not affected by your clothing.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
It's like where Bell Shakespeare meets Clubbies. That was my vibe.
Now, if you turned up in a sort of black and white striped shirt with face paint on like a mime, then I could have understood this guy's point. That's Village.
That's right.
Or indeed, he should have said that's Village.
With black face paint on, I'd be in a bit of trouble, I'd imagine.
It's 2023, Bessie. You can't do that.
I know we used to do that. Anyway. I go into bat, best of intentions. I've seen blokes bowling. There's a speed gun at Junction Oval. Nothing's over 105 Ks.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And long story short, and it has been a long story, I go into bat and I can't really see the ball. very well. Eyes gone.
Yeah,
No
okay.
glasses.
Yeah.
Didn't bring my glasses. I'd forgot, like, in my habit, I've only taken on glasses in the last year or so. And it wasn't part of my routine of
course.
taking cricket stuff
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
ground.
yeah.
Oh, I better bring my glasses.
Yeah.
So it was just a deeply uncomfortable experience. My hands were very low on the bat. My feet were wide, and I was merely trying to survive. Yep, against blokes bowling 100 Ks.
So
and that is just that's what where the wisdom should have been, is that when you get older, you can't really see that well. Also not that good at cricket.
Yeah, I guess like you had ambition that's like, I've spent enough time away from this game. I've stepped back from it now, and I look at it, from 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
That's how far you step back. It's actually up.
Yeah.
And you thought, I understand this game now better. I understand myself better as a person.
Yeah.
I've figured out the weaknesses,
And I'm freer.
strengths, and
Freer of the mind.
I've been liberated.
Less to lose.
And then once you actually get there, you
I got in
realize
there and I couldn't actually see the guys at the end of the net. This is going to be a problem.
because they were all wearing face paint and camouflage coming out of the
And
hedges.
I was too. No one bowled because they were calling the police. Anyway, yeah. So then a couple of days over the weekend. So again, like, just to set it up, had my boys. My wife was working night shift. By the way, if she's not listening, which she isn't, happy birthday to Tori. And she was working a night shift, and then she's sleeping at her mum's house, which is near the hospital, right? And so in the area, I'm going to go over for a swim, real hot day. So I'm like, I've got a couple of hours to kill with the boys. Swing by the junction, New South Wales, Victoria. And I endorse it. Bumped into a good friend of ours, Tom Morris, friend of the show.
Yep.
Forber from St Kilda, used to play with Forber. And got a spot on the hill. Very rustic, almost bucolic experience. Got a couple of lemonade icy poles for the boys. Enough space around where, like, if my 3-year-old needed to go to the toilet, which he did, I could just take him to the back. He could just wee on the ground.
Right,
Okay. But people who have kids all, sort of know their way around a suburban cricket game or whatever, you can appreciate that. I endorse it. I watched Todd Murphy and Scott Boland put on a clinic. New South Wales were chasing 300, looked okay, but weren't ever going to get there. It was a good afternoon at Junction Oval.
Speaking of domestic cricket grounds, there's been great revelations with Karen Rolton Oval now having a drop-in pitch. Now this is the drop-in pitch is now drop-in and natural, both options available. But there's more to that. It's a fucking protected wicket now. It's getting fucking
Protected species.
It's a protected species now.
That's right. Endangered.
Yeah. I mean, this
You hear how the wicket got there, like the turf from the Adelaide Oval got transported there. This is how important cricket wickets are and what should be done to push back on drop-in wickets.
Yep.
So read this at cricket.com.au. Was a bit confused with cricket.com, our sponsor from India.
indeed.
So like there was a business and logistics case that had to be approved by the SACA and permits received from Adelaide City Council and a National Heavy Vehicles Register, where then 25 by 3 metre concrete troughs weighing 30 tonnes apiece were transported with police escort for 5 hours through the Adelaide CBD from Adelaide Oval to Karen Rolton Oval.
Right. Yeah.
That's the sort of commitment to natural wickets I want to see.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like to transplant the excellence of the Adelaide Oval character and turf. Like it's good to see with the direction of cricket at the moment, maybe a move away from wickets with a lot of character that go for a long time, that still it's worthy of a police escort.
Yeah,
5
exactly.
hour police escort.
Yeah. Now you think about like how many wickets have been damaged in clubland over the years. Like if only there was a police escort and just general 24-hour security around it, then we wouldn't
next
have
step.
hoses being left under there, people sleeping with other people under the covers.
Under the covers.
Yeah,
That's right.
all allegations. Pezza, a nice thing that I saw in the county scene, I suppose. Obviously, Surrey winning. They went back to back, winning the third grade premiership there. Trent Bridge though, they named one end after Stuart Broad, the Stuart
Yeah,
Broad
it's
end. Nothing more befitting of the man who fucking destroyed Australia so many times, famously at Trent Bridge, with that one weird spell. But it's a nice touch for Trent Bridge.
Well, yeah, it means like
have a Stuart Broad end.
Whenever there's an Ashes series that has both Trent Bridge and Old Trafford in it, like so 2 out of 5 tests, we're going to be hearing guys bowling from the Jimmy Anderson end or the Stuart Broad end.
Yeah, see, for
On
me,
occasion,
I
it might
just,
even just be Jimmy Anderson still bowling. Jimmy Anderson from the Stuart Broad end.
Indeed. To that end, Pez, unless you want to talk about something else from domestic clubland, I was going to talk about wasted Saturdays and getting people to DM us your clips.
Well, I wouldn't there's probably nothing more domestic cricket than wasted Saturdays. So please introduce what this is.
So we released a clip last week, just reviewing a couple of clips that were sent in via the DM method of people just enjoying their Saturdays, ultimately wasting their Saturdays, as we all have done for basically our entire teens and 20s, and for those of the hardcore persuasion into their 30s and 40s. So we want to see your clips from, your frog boxes of the world, your general private stream setup on the cricket field. Don't really need to see too much feet stuff. Too much, always some.
Oh, tubs.
And we're going to create a new segment, a new show for our YouTube properties and social media generally called Wasted Saturdays. We're going to receive your clips via DM or email. If you want to go to our website, you can send it in there, I guess, as well. Or just whatever's the easiest method for you to send it to us, and we're gonna we'll just react to them.
Wasted Saturdays is where club cricket meets sun damage, failed relationships, and broken dreams.
Perfect.
And I hear what people are saying. I can hear them right now, and I know you can as well. Is this going to be two blokes bullying people's cricket conduct online? Maybe.
We are the cricket police.
Arguably, yes, exactly. But we ask you to think more deeply about it than that. Aren't we all wasting time?
Yeah.
He goes are you the listener who's already gearing up to send in multiple clips of your friends' poor or ridiculous cricket conduct to two podcasting dickheads off the internet? Are you really all that alpha doing that?
Let's find out.
Are we? Two blokes pushing 40, ostensibly policing people's cricket conduct. Are we throbbing in life? Arguable. The truth is, Wasted Saturdays is a celebration of the absurdity of cricket. Really, for anything that gets played, we've all been there. What are we looking at? We want clips that are, mishaps, blow ups, kit shaming. The real nuts, bolts, realities and practicalities of the game we love. And he goes, big cricket, like capital B, capital C, big cricket, big media really is just clip-ups now. Life is fucking clip-ups.
House of highlights.
It's clip-ups of the real thing that you never see. All you see is the clip-up of the thing. Now, what do people who are listening to this or watching this want to see for the rest of their life? Do they really want to see millionaire genetic freaks hitting 100-meter sixes, bowling 100 mile an hour, just clipped up, fucking having your eyeballs plied and pilloried with this shit? Is that what people want? Probably. Or do you want a better kind of catch-all scenario where you get what really happens in
real
cricket? The real cricket.
People's real experiences.
The stuff we all play or played.
Yeah.
So we're imploring you to fight back against the freak stuff. Send us your real moments.
All right, should we talk about the World Cup?
If anyone wants to sponsor that, hello@gradecricketer.com.
So I was reading this morning, Pez, incoming MCC President Mark Nicholas has said that ODI should only be played in World Cups. Here's what he said. He's talking to ESPN Cricket Info, by the way.
Are you about to throw to a sound effect?
No. I'm just going to read it.
Yeah.
He said, we believe strongly that ODI should be World Cups only. We think it's difficult bilaterally now to justify them. They're not filling grounds in a lot of countries. And there is a power at the moment to T20 cricket that is almost supernatural. It's more than just ticket sales. It's the amount of people that want to own franchises, the amount of countries that want to run tournaments. It's the amount of players that want to be in a market all around the world. In a free market, the most money wins, and that's just the end game. The players can see that bubbling away, and they want to be part of it. So it is an extraordinary power that T20 has, and I think scheduling 50-over cricket alongside it just continues the story of the death knell of the ODI game. Very hard to disagree with anything he's just said there.
Seems like a positive way of saying bilaterals are dead.
Yes, indeed.
But I don't really understand the point of an ODI World Cup if there's literally nothing laddering into it. Do we just turn up every 4 years and start playing a format that no one's been playing every 4 years because we liked it as kiddies.
Yeah, I suppose because, I mean, the idea of watching professional sport generally is that you're watching the absolute top echelon of it. You're watching the best, things that you can't achieve.
Something that's been built towards.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, I still suspect that this 50 over World Cup is going to be exciting. It's going to be great moments. So, and I'm at this moment in time, I don't mind there being no ODI cricket played except for like 2 months before the next World Cup, and then they just fucking try and figure it out. Now, that's easy to say because what if Australia don't win every game? No, because I still like the 50 over World Cup in the sense that there are great moments, and there's obviously history and lineage towards that. So, and that's something that T20 cricket, for the most part, I don't think has been able to capture just yet. Saying that, I think the greatest cricket moment I've ever seen last night was in a T20 game. Not last night.
What was the greatest moment you saw last night?
Last year when, India versus Pakistan, Kohli, etc. So that's a great moment and is part of now the history of the sport. The problem is that there's been so many World Cups so often that it's like it seems to diminish the idea of world champions in anything, including the World Test Championship, to be honest. So actually, what would happen if you just got rid of ODI cricket completely, and there's obviously then less World Cups because there's not that every 4 years, then maybe the T20 World Cup has elevated status, perhaps. I'm not sure. I'm just not quite ready as a guy who's 37 to like give up all the great memories that I've had of ODI cricket, like my...
Not ready.
Yeah, like, no, because I like it. Like, I liked the time when we won 4 out of 5. I liked it when Herschel Gibbs dropped the catch. I like it when Shane Warne just went ballistic against South Africa. I like Gilchrist's 100 in the West Indies against Sri Lanka, and other things that have happened in cricket.
For other teams that I'm told about but never saw.
Yeah, I'll read the comments. Yeah. So, I'm not quite ready to give that up yet, but I take Mark Nicholas's point is that if you're not quite ready to give up the entire sport just yet, then you can only really have it in ODIs when there is genuine World Cups, when there's genuine jeopardy in it, which is why I think this World Cup is still going to bang. Of course, because India will probably win it, and they're the home team and they love cricket and they've got heaps of people. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I think that the influx of domestic franchise T20 cricket has just crowded the schedule so much and is worth so much more money than international one-day bilateral cricket. Something's got to give, and I just think there's too much cricket. I don't really understand. Like, I appreciate I hear what Mark Nicholas says as middle ground. Like, okay, we'll get rid of the ODI cricket that doesn't matter and doesn't make any money, but we'll keep the ODI cricket that we like, which is something that happens once every 4 years. But the paradox is that we like what happens with the ODI World Cup because it has been laddered up to by something. I mean, I fail to see a world where like young players now who are growing up on a diet of any format of cricket but one-day cricket then just gather every 4 years to just start playing this new format because it continues a traditional lineage of what came before.
Yeah.
I just fail to see how the game can sustain 3 formats. And that includes one days, but now that just means that this World Cup is probably going to bang. Like I really see it as, the vibe is older players trying to win the last serious one they'll ever be. India, home comforts versus home pressures. England, defending champions, old blokes who know how to win it. Pakistan, just vibe and electricity. New Zealand avenging the most harrowing loss in the history of sport. Australia needs its golf simulator to work.
Yeah, so there is another World Cup, 50 over World Cup in South Africa and Zimbabwe in 4 years' time. That one's already been...
There's one scheduled, yeah.
That one's been scheduled. So, like, is there a world where that just doesn't happen because it's like we don't... Like, this, everyone says we don't care about it anymore? Or, like, India doesn't send a team because they're like, nah... Not interested.
Things have changed a lot in 4 years.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you think about how long ago it was that final happened. The first game of this World Cup, England and New Zealand. How long ago that felt like in 4 years' time? We even said like during the Ashes, like what is the Ashes going to look like for both countries in 4 years' time when Australia is next in the UK?
Exactly.
It's like, what the fuck does that even look like? I mean,
Saudi Arabia hasn't even really come into cricket yet.
it is incredible that England managed to save Test cricket, which is fantastic news for the West Indies, South Africa, New Zealand, just associate nations, you know, because it's just fucking rejuvenated the whole sport.
You blokes still talking about that?
Look, that was an unnecessary jab, but the point being, just like 4 years is a very long time, and the whole landscape of this sport is going to be, well, I think we all know where it's going. It's T20 circuit.
Exactly, T20 circuit.
I guess that's kind of what I'm saying though about like, have you ever loved a T20 game? Have you ever loved a tournament? Like loved it.
Love, yeah.
I've loved a Test series.
So funny, man.
Don't know if I've ever loved. I've probably loved a World Cup, 50 over World Cup, probably.
It's a really difficult question. I can easily answer the question as an individual, like just from my personal experience. I know we keep mentioning our age on this show for some reason, but like just as a 38-year-old with the diet of cricket I had as a child and that connection you make to the game as a child and the way that's wrapped up in family and community and your experience of the game, that just shapes so deeply how you feel about formats today. So I can speak really.
Yep.
I don't have a love of the format of T20 cricket, but I think that's likely to be purely influenced by what I fell in love with, what my classical conditioning was. You know, my imprinting of cricket. So I don't. That isn't to say that T20 is unlovable. In fact, I'd be interested in asking kids who first found cricket through T20 how they feel about that format, and I think that's probably the more agnostic flight, 50,000 feet question over the future of the game. It's, you know, what do younger people fall in love with when it comes to cricket? It's probably what you first see and first like, you know? So, and if you eliminate bilateral ODIs, as Mark Nicholas is suggesting, and probably wisely, I don't really understand how the next generation of cricket fan forms any bond with it that would then that would then justify a World Cup in a completely different format to any other cricket every 4 years. But it just also means, so there is, again, like with the last Ashes, there's a grander sense of finality to this World Cup, and like we're doing a fuckload of coverage for it. So like I'm definitely keen to get into it with a sense of poignancy about it.
To that end, do you want to talk about Australia's squad, which was announced last Thursday? They were one of the last teams to actually finalise their squad, and the news there is that Ashton Agar is out, Marnus Labuschagne is in, Travis Head is also in that squad. They won't play until at least halfway through the tournament or the round robin games. Massive loss, Agar, for Australia. Massive loss. So. Given the fact that that Head is also unlikely to play the first 5 games, you would suggest. No one actually knows exactly, probably including Travis Head. But without those two players, I mean, Agar just so significant in India with his fielding, lower order batting, and left arm spin. It's a big loss because now in the squad there's just Zampa, Maxwell, Marnus bowled in one of the warm up games the other night. I know he's bowled for Queensland in the Marsh Cup before. It's a significant blow.
Yeah, I guess it'd be interesting to see whether in India, as we expect that like spin will play a massive role. We presume that it does because every time we go there for red ball cricket, it definitely does. But I don't really know how it jives with the season of that's over there in India at the moment, as in the weather patterns, what it's doing to the wickets. I was listening to Wisden Cricket podcast this morning. Mark Butcher suggesting that it will actually be a seam heavy tournament.
There's been so much rain recently.
Yeah, so maybe spin is overrated, for that. But that's just me clutching at straws for the many gaps that appear to be in Australia's side. The other thing with Agar is that, having had the privilege of talking to a bunch of the boys, like him, Zampa, Stoinis, like they sort of, they have a little bit more ownership of that white ball team culturally as well. I think they kind of get around together a little bit. So I think his absence hurts there as well. He definitely contributes to the idea of fun in the side and all that kind of thing. So I think it's a huge loss. I think it's a really important cricketer in a place like India.
I saw this on Instagram yesterday. Dinesh Karthik was talking on Crick Buzz, and he said, I met Smith, talking about Steve Smith, during the World Test Championship final and saw Virat Kohli written on his bat. So the words Virat Kohli was written on Steve Smith's bat. Smith told me, I have been playing with Virat Kohli's bat for some time now. And he told me that for the Ashes, he is waiting for Virat Kohli to send another bat. That is respect and bond, both shares between them.
That's amazing. That's a genuine story.
It's a genuine story, yeah.
I like the Virat, like a child at school, writes his name on his things. No, I'm serious. That's very good. That's very diligent.
Do you reckon like it was one of the bats he scored 100 with and he signed it for Steve Smith and now Smith's just using it?
That's really extraordinary, like just knowing or being, again, like pummeled with information about Steve Smith's relationships to his kit.
Yeah.
Like I'm hearing this for the first time, you saying that.
Yeah.
And I would have thought that like Steve Smith would have been, you know, part of the fucking tree growing process of his bats from age 2.
Yeah.
Instead, he's just picking one up out of Virat's kit and going, that feels nice. Is that spare?
I'm not with MRF, but I can chuck a couple of MB stickers on it and away we go. Let's talk about India, who were obviously hosting the tournament, and then the pressure on these guys to win every single game is going to be so immense. I mean, that's a thing that we probably haven't spoken about enough, like the length of this tournament. England and Australia travel the most of any teams. They're going to 8 different cities for their 9 group games. Incredible. I mean, England played in one of their warm-up games against India. And they travelled for 38 hours on the road to travel to where the game was, and it was washed out. So awesome. So all pretty good stuff there for those boys. But with the tournament going for literally 6 weeks, if you make the final, you're going to play 11 games. I mean, given that no one plays ODI cricket and hasn't done for the last 4 years or taken it seriously or put their best 11s onto the field, the idea that you're going to win 11 games or win probably even 9 games is probably quite fanciful. But that's probably something that the expectation will be for India, such is the pressure on them to win every single game. And if they lose a game, sweeping changes and the pressure from outside is going to be so immense that I think that's going to be their biggest issue.
They have to smash everybody in 11 games.
Yeah.
India. Yeah. Well, look, I picked this up, important nugget, just to show how holistic the effort is from the entire Indian nation to win this World Cup. Mm-hmm. I picked up this little nugget from RVCJ Sports.
Yep.
And it says there's a picture of Ravichandran Ashwin with an unknown man to me. I don't know his face, but it says above it, Cricket Australia contacted Mahesh Pithia, a bowler with similar bowling action to Ashwin, for bowling in nets. And then underneath the photo it says, Mahesh Pithia rejected their offer. It's not going to be easy for Australia this time. So I think India, if this is the same guy that they must have got for the Test series.
Yeah.
It helped a lot.
Probably.
It just goes to show. I think India is all in.
They're all pulling in the one direction. Anything else for India?
Oh, not really. I mean, we've got a big preview of them on our YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. I just think India's home comforts versus home pressures. I mean, they've got a complete side. I think they really should win the game. I think in terms of this World Cup, going into the semi-finals, winning 9 from 9 is going to be a problem. You know, I just think you want to jammy 6 from 9 wins and head into the World Cup head into the semis with momentum. Somebody can wake up and just have a great day. It's all about momentum at the right time. Again, on the Wisden cast as well, I'd shout out to those guys. They were just noting that 40% of the teams make the final 3 games, and so you just want to be in that 40%.
Yeah. And
for your cricket at that moment in time to be really singing. Given that is in the week leading up to the 19th of November and it's the 3rd of October, it's a long way away.
Yeah.
So, honestly, for this World Cup, I think India, traveling around to 8 cities across a couple of weeks, which is a lot of domestic flights, a lot of in a hotel, out of hotel, a lot of scrutiny. I just think that the team that stays, is such a cliche, but stays together and has a fun time, is going to be the team that, gives themselves a good chance to be firing come the end of the tournament. I just think with so much cricket that these big teams have played over the year, 2 months in India all together under the glare and spotlight of the World Cup could get on top of you very, very quickly. So
the Australian and the English guys in particular, you look at Cameron Green, for instance, who is in the squad. His last 8 months have been the Australian summer, then into the Border Gavaskar series, and then into the IPL straight away. And then, so he played for Mumbai, who they did make the final. They got knocked out in the game before the final. Is that called the prelim or the semi-final or however that works? Whatever it's called, the second last game. And then he went home for 3 days, and then he flew out to England. Then he was there for the World Test Championship and then the Ashes. That was 6 weeks. Ironically, actually the same amount of time that this World Cup goes for, same as the IPL. So then he goes from that to the Ashes, the intensity of the Ashes.
Longer, yeah.
And then he's been back home for a little bit. Now he's going back to another World Cup. In the meantime, playing in South Africa, being hit in the head, being concussed, a few other things. Now that's just Cameron Grant. There'll be other guys in a similar position to that, though they wouldn't have had the intensity of the Border Gavaskar series as Australia and India did in March. But it's just it's a long time away from home. And it's so much cricket and just the ebbs and flows of your form across 3 different formats. Absolutely remarkable.
Australia seemed like tired and limping to me. But maybe, maybe you want to be tired and limping on the 3rd of October. How do you can you alchemize it all for the back half of the tournament? That seems to be Australia's no doubt got the players to get the job done. If Andrew McDonald, with George Bailey and Pat Cummins can get the boys coming off. Yeah. At the right time. That's really the game, isn't it? They're all world-class players. They've done well in India before. They've got the experience. What can be done between now and the back end of the tournament to ensure that people are happy and excited about getting into the fucking 6th or 7th week of their Indian trip. Right. So to that end, England obviously defending champions. We've done a preview for them. You can get that on Patreon or indeed YouTube. But they do seem the next most likely to challenge India. Given the quality of their batting in particular. We noted in the preview that their bowling is unders compared to what it was in 2019 when they won the thing. Obviously, Jofra Archer is not available. Ben Stokes was bowling in that World Cup. And then Liam Plunkett obviously doesn't play for England anymore. He was fantastic and had been for a period of time, actually several years, heading into that World Cup for England and was a key contributor. But fuck me, the batting is so good. I mean, the batting is so strong that you feel like that scoreboard pressure puts... they're bowling at ease a little bit. Maybe it doesn't need to be as high quality as what it was 4 years ago, but they do seem the next most likely to me. I did fail to mention earlier, he goes, just from the local or host broadcaster of the World Cup, Star Sports, they picked 11 players to watch out for.
11 to watch out for?
11 players to watch out for in World Cup 2023, courtesy of Johns, at Crazy Johns.
So there's 10 teams, squad of 15, so 150 players, 11 to watch.
And it's the Star Sports expert panel made up of obviously a lot of Indian cricket greats, but also greats from all World Cup playing nations as well. So it's a full diversity there. Yeah. Star Sports experts pick 11 players to watch out for in World Cup 2023. The 11 players are Shubman Gill, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Babar Azam 4, Heinrich Klaasen 5, Joss Butler 6, Hardik Pandya 7, Rashid Khan 8, Kuldeep Yadav 9, Jasprit Bumrah 10, and Shaheen Shah Afridi. So 6 Indians and 5 from the remaining countries.
Okay. No Aussies in there?
No.
Any Kiwis?
No, they made they tied it last. They're not there.
One English player.
But watch out for Shubman, Rohit, Virat, Hardik, Kuldeep, Jasprit. Yeah.
See, if they fucking lose the toss, they're gonna be in trouble.
Yep.
They're gonna be in trouble.
Yep.
It's a good team. Speaking of good teams, Pez, last night Australian and West Indies women were embroiled in a battle at North Sydney Oval. In fact, that's two games so far in that series, in that white ball series at North Sydney Oval. West Indies chased down a world record 212, 3 down. Hayley Matthews hit 132 of 64. She also took 3 for 36 opening the bowling in the first innings. Here's what she said after the game. Today was quite incredible. I don't think any days of cricket have beaten that. The leadership of the team has definitely helped me to take responsibility of my game. That, along with learning and understanding my game a lot more from playing franchise and T20 cricket on the road. So, Australia in the first innings made 212. Phoebe Litchfield came in at the end, hit 52 red, an 18-ball 50. Elise Perry hit 70 of 46. And you're thinking, Australia's going to do it again because they won the first game so easily. They chased down 147, 2 down in 13 overs in the first game, again at North Sydney Oval. Hayley Matthews, by the way, also scored 99 red of 74 balls out of 147. Alyssa Healy and Talia McGrath scored 50s in the run chase. That was in the first game. So Australia made 212 at North Sydney Oval in the second game there at night, last night indeed. And then Hayley Matthews, 132 of 64. One of the most unbelievable performances from any opposing player in a white ball game in Australia. That is just, it's absolutely incredible. My questions. Here are my thoughts, Pezza, watching it. Australia in the field were absolutely dreadful. Dropped several catches. And I was just looking at the statistics this morning, actually, from Hayley Matthews, 132. 77 runs through cover. I think it was 17 fours and 3 sixes through cover. Now, Alyssa Healy afterwards spoke about the execution with the bowling plans and the fielding generally. Alyssa Healy's had a little bit of a rough time as captain, you would have to say, since Meg Lanning did not travel even to go over to the Ashes. Obviously, Australia did enough to retain the Ashes, but I'm in two minds here about Australia's standards perhaps a little bit slipping. They've obviously batted well by scoring 212, and they obviously won the first game so easily, but how poor the fielding was last night and how poor the bowling was in terms of the execution of the bowling plans to the field set. Unders, remarkably unders. But is it that, or is it this because of the T20 franchises, players from around the world playing in a higher quality competition, that you're going to see the gap between Australia and the rest of the world closing together?
The gap closing. Yeah. Well, mate, there's two ways to look at it. One is it's really good to see the gap closing because Australia has been unassailable for a long period of time, and now there are these systems and structures that permit everybody to play with each other, and all the intimidation to go away because you know them and stuff like that. Yep. On the other hand, I wouldn't mind an Australian team that just continues to dominate because it does something for me.
Yeah, I like it. I like it if the other teams continue to perform excellently, but just not quite as good as Australia.
Yeah.
Hayley Matthews played for Mumbai. I think it's Mumbai in the WPL.
Right.
This one just gone. So she's obviously a sensational player, and obviously credits her captaining role to increase the quality of her performances, which is interesting itself because it doesn't seem to be the case necessarily for the Australian captain at the moment.
Take your point on Midge as captain. Noted Meg Lanning came back last week for Victoria.
Played Victoria.
WNCL, made 50.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if there's news on whether she's due back in Australian colours anytime soon.
I don't know.
But you'd imagine coming back for Victoria is a pretty good sign. While it's on my mind, people coming back for Victoria, so is Will Pucovski as well.
Nice.
In the Shield next week.
Nice.
So
nice.
All the best to Park.
I have not got it written in front of me. In fact, what I can do is I'm going to look at when the last game is for the tour. The third game is Thursday in Brisbane. That's the third T20 between Australia and the West Indies. Then they play 3 ODIs, 1 in Brisbane and then 2 in Melbourne to wrap up the white ball tour. Okay, should we speak to Dan Brettig first or should we speak to Spencer Johnson first? What do you fancy here?
Let's go to trappings.
Here he is. Here's Dan Brettig.
Trappings for the eyes, Dan Brettig, chief cricket writer from The Age, joins us at DB. Welcome back to the show.
Lovely to be here, boys.
Love it. Professional. Brady, you've run the rule over it. You've done a huge preview in The Age and 9 papers generally of the World Cup. Can I just ask you very broadly, how are you seeing it, apart from with your eyes, but just generally, how are you seeing this World Cup?
I see it as one of the World Cups that have been in South Asia, so I think you got to look at them differently to the rest. This is obviously a very different World Cup to 2019, just on a geographical basis. And so, yeah, I think it's like it really should be India's tournament to lose. That's the first thing to say. And that there's kind of like it just feels like with every year there's more and more and more depth in the Indian white ball program. And so their biggest strength is the sheer numbers of players that they have pushing through. And if you looked at that warm-up series Australia had against India, a lot of the better performances were by guys who were either right on the fringes of the squad, like Ravichandran Ashwin, or some of the guys who didn't even make it. So that's India's big advantage. Their biggest disadvantage is sort of bound up in that as well, the expectation, the fact that they haven't won a global event since the 2011 World Cup, the last time it was in India, and the fact that I feel as though Rohit Sharma as captain and Rahul Dravid as coach, I just got the sense when I was in India earlier this year for the Test series that those guys, they do feel that sense of needing to perform and needing to win stuff and needing to get things conditions-wise going their way to make sure that happens or give themselves the best chance. And so, if that is kind of transferred onto the rest of the team, we could see India, get knocked out in the semi-final again, perhaps.
I'm going to do the job of every commenter already typing in.
Because I made this mistake.
And apparently they won the ICC Champions Trophy in 2013, Brady. Like anyone gives a fuck about that. Brady, to that end, I've got a question for you about the Australian team. Because whilst I expect Australia to win every single game of cricket across any format they ever play in,
agree.
I don't think anyone will really care if Australia don't win the World Cup. I think if we get knocked out before the semi-finals, there might be a bit like, we'll care a little bit, but I don't get the sense that anyone here really deeply cares that much about this World Cup. Thoughts?
Well, if you think back 12 months that Australia hosted a T20 World Cup, and there was a bit of a sense that no one really cottoned on that it was happening until its final weeks. Now you put that same tournament, not same format, but a World Cup nonetheless, in India, it's even further out of sight, out of mind. So that would compute with your theory, he goes. And I also think that, as far as the format of the World Cup is concerned, Australia should make the semi-finals. If you look down the list of the teams, if you look down the list of Australia's squad, the fact that they've been able to get guys fit or close enough to it to get to the start line, anything less than a semi-final would be a big disappointment. And it's nowhere near as cutthroat a format as the T20 World Cup was last year. So you'd say that if Australia can win 6 out of their games, they should get there. Then, of course, it becomes a completely different tournament from the semis. So, good point. Good point.
Well, I mean, what should our expectations be, Brady? Because I feel like our white ball expectations have been kind of squashed to the point where, as Higo says, as long as we put up an okay show, then we'll keep, people at bay. Like, shouldn't the Australian cricket team be arranging a squad that is fit and firing and ready to go for this 50-over World Cup? Or is the sense of a couple of old blokes hoping it all comes together more of a reflection on the direction of international cricket generally and the fact that this format seems to be on its last legs?
I think it's more a reflection of the year that the Australian men's team has already had. They've played 4 test matches in India. They've played an Ashes series. They've played a World Test Championship, all of that away from home. And so it has felt very much over those 2 series against South Africa and India that this has been a case of just trying to crawl to the start line and hope that they can start walking when World Cup starts. And that's clearly not the ideal way to prepare for a global tournament. And then on the other side of that, in terms of, how I said before about the sort of feeling that we were sort of sleepwalking into the pointy end of a home World Cup, let alone an away World Cup. It's 5-6 years since the Australian white ball team has been regularly on, major market TV in Australia. So that, I think that is bringing a little bit of a sense of what the England team has lived with up until Bazball. The fact that they felt that they were off Broadway, and so all of a sudden you've got these guys in their 30s who've got really good England careers being like, I'm getting stopped on the street now. I feel as though the Australian white ball team is kind of just drifting into that kind of sense of anonymity in Australia in a way that the Test team isn't, and I think that's purely because of the way the broadcast deal was cut.
I think as well, DB, we're probably Australia hasn't quite cottoned onto it just yet, I don't suspect, but given that we will see the West Indies out here again 2 years in a row for 2 Test matches, after the Pakistan series, Pakistan's record in Australia, how many games have they ever won in Australia, Test matches? Do you know off the top of your head?
I'm pretty sure the last time that they won a Test match in Australia was 1995 at the SCG.
Okay.
And it was a dead test anyway.
Right.
So,
well, that's
that is
a
long time ago.
That is typically how it goes for the SCG if it doesn't rain. But then after that series, we get 2 tests in against the West Indies. Look, Pakistan have great players, but they've always had really good players, but they just really struggled to play in Australia. So I think that the Australian public might start to recognise how decimated Test cricket has become about midway through maybe the Boxing Day Test, perhaps, before we get into 2 more tests against I don't know what kind of side the West Indies is going to be when they come out here, but this sort of all couples into a World Cup where we don't really care that much. After hosting a T20 World Cup, we didn't really care too much about because it rained and it was cold still, and it's like, what's going to need to happen for the Australian public to fall in love with our cricket again? Because I don't really see how it can be centred around a Test match summer.
Well, I think increasingly it's been centred around Test matches against India and England, and the rest is kind of we fill in the gaps later. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the way that, the administrators and the broadcasters look at it, surely that bleeds over into the public and the public interest. And I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but I was fascinated by the promo that Seven put out during the AFL Grand Final for this summer, which was Richard Roxburgh walking around the SCG talking about, the end of an era and, David Warner's last Test match and how special this group of players has been and all of that. Pakistan get mentioned in a graphic right at the end of the promo, and West Indies might as well not be touring if you were to look at that. So I think that tells you that there's increasingly the wheels of the cricket economy are being reflected in what people actually get themselves up for and interested in. And I think probably as well there's a little bit still of an exhale following the Ashes, given that was something that really did kind of cross over from cricket series to cultural event kind of status.
Yep.
There's there is definitely an issue there for anyone who wants to both follow cricket, but also, have cricket as part of their lives in terms of playing it, watching it, working in it. We've got the series we play against India and England and everything else.
Do you think that's acceptable, Dan? Like, do you think that's that's what the narrative of this summer should be, that we're just going to be talking about our players have been pretty good?
I would like to think that every summer brings something to the table, and we don't quite know yet what that is going to be. And I think that there's a little bit of, what's the word? There's just a little bit of a drift at the moment, given that, like I said before we started, this sort of feels like a bit of a gap year. So, it's a question of which players emerge and actually do some things that are going to get us talking, like Hayley Matthews did last night at North Sydney Oval. Like, that was a great example of what you're hoping to see this summer. And we just know that history says that we may hope to see those things from the West Indies and Pakistan, but we haven't seen a lot of it in a long time. But yeah, at the same time, this summer is a really good reflection of, I suppose you'd say, the global issues that Cricket Australia, the other rich boards, and when they sit together at the ICC board table, actually need to thrash this stuff out and be like, well, what does it benefit us if we keep ensuring that the cricket world is getting smaller and smaller by our economic decisions? And one other that it's worth pointing out. If you talk to the Australian players, they're not talking about this as a 5-test summer. They're talking about it as a 7-test summer because there's the 2 in New Zealand. How is it possible that the current World Test champions and the previous World Test champions are playing a 2-test series? Like, that to me seems ridiculous. That there's not enough impetus either in terms of Cricket Australia providing enough days in the calendar, or Cricket New Zealand being keen enough to do what they can with the days they've been provided to play a 3-test series between 2 teams that have been pretty good in recent years. So I think there's, in terms of what you asked earlier, Sam, about, should this be good enough? I think that gives you the answer that it isn't.
Yeah, in terms of like blooding new players, DB, like I suspect if I'm one of the current 11 players in the side, I would not want to be giving up Pakistan at home, West Indies at home, because that's where I'm getting my 5 wickets. That's where I'm scoring my 170s. And, there's obviously a question about David Warner going around again. Will he be selected? But I think he's probably still the best opening batter in Australia. If you're just picking off, who's going to score runs in Australia, he is probably more likely to score those runs than, say, Marcus Harris, who is probably next cab, right? So in terms of blooding new players, are you expecting us to even see any new players really this summer? Because I want to score bulk runs and take wickets if I'm in the team.
Well, I think you probably look at the Pakistan series on one level and the West Indies series on another there. I'd say that in terms of looking at a younger group, it'll be more so those West Indies test matches and then the New Zealand series after that than the Pakistan series. I mean, as we discussed, Dave Warner's already been promoted for having his last lap
right.
on TV. So it has to happen, doesn't it? But yeah, I think there's there were obviously moments during the back end of the Ashes series where, the sort of the slow fade of the performances of the Australian team in that series suggested, well, yeah, now is the time to go younger and to start sort of an orderly process of turning over some players so that you're not losing guys all at once. And like I said before about like the summer storylines emerging, that's always a really good one for someone to come out of the pack and make some big runs or take some wickets. And I think that's, like in terms of both something that's good for the performance side of Australian cricket, but also good for the, I suppose the selling of the game in Australia, that sort of is at the centre of the Venn diagram.
Dan Brettig, Chief Cricket Writer of The Age, thanks so much for joining us. And that is how I always address you.
Oh yeah, at the pub, at the cafe, just just drop it in at the start, please.
Well, I hope the man we're about to speak to doesn't mind me saying this, but every time I've invited a guest onto this show, I normally just get a 1 or 2 word answer. But this guy said, "Fuck yes, Pez, play me in." They weren't the exact words. If you're watching on YouTube, you're looking at what some of the greatest trappings that Australian cricket has to offer on the eyes, and the salad, the bouffant coming off the top of the head is just making me is making me feel things. So it is with that in mind, we welcome Spencer Johnson for the first time to the Grade Cricket. Spence, welcome.
Yes, lads, thanks for getting me in. How good?
Mate, you tell me.
Indeed.
Spencer, do you have any idea how much the populace of Australia is pining for more Spencer Johnson on our cameras this summer? It's the chest, it's the salad, obviously a little husk in the voice there as well. Do you mind if I objectify you?
No, happy with that. But no, I'm not really aware. I'm not really aware of what's happening today, let alone what's happening in the community.
You got the national colours on a couple of weeks ago over there in South Africa. Can you just tell us quickly about that experience?
Obviously, dream come true. Probably a little bit unexpected, to be fair, where I was this time last year. I just missed out on the second 11 selection. So to go from the bottom to the top quite quickly, it's pretty surreal.
Yeah, can I ask you about the sequence of your path from grassroots to Australia, Spence? Because, I mean, you've also played, for the Ovals in the 100. You've played LA Knight Riders. You're on the circuit, the T20 League in Canada as well. But, what's your sequence been from grassroots to Australia?
Well, I guess lots of club cricket. I played a lot of club cricket down at West Torrens, Henley Beach. Had a little bit of success there, and then there's lost contracts and injuries and things along the way. But this time last year, I wasn't getting picked for second 11, and now I guess I had a decent big bash with the Heat. Grateful for that opportunity, and then now I've, as you said, been in those flying around the world playing in those franchise cricket, which is pretty cool.
Mm.
Do you already feel like you've had so much experience talking to people in the media who basically are asking you, who the fuck are you? And where did you come from? Because, to our eyes, you're just a big throbber who bowls 90 mile an hour. No, and in Australia, that person normally comes from under 12 Australian cricket and they're nursed all the way through. I know your story because I've listened to it all the way through, but have you had a lot of practice explaining to people, why you've arrived where you have, even though not a lot of people know where you've come from?
Well, yeah, funny you say that. I've been trying to stay away from the cliches and just sort of stick to what I know, but to be honest, I'm a lot more nervous coming on podcasts and doing interviews than I am playing. So if you could see my hands, they're absolutely sweating.
Can you show us your hands, actually?
Me saying get me in is trying to pump me up because I've been so straight down the line with these interviews. I'm for a bit of a fun one. So out of me, I'm happy with that.
Okay, Spence, who's got the biggest cock in the Australian team?
There is one that comes to mind. There's definitely one. He also plays for South Australia.
Okay. Now, you saw Travis Head down at the Shield this morning. How's that hand injury coming along? It's a big... In all seriousness, Spencer, let's go from the bottom then, grade cricket, that is. West Torrens, you said you've played a lot of club cricket. Has it always been the case that you have bowled extreme wheels and dominated, but for injuries you may have risen further up the ranks sooner?
I'm not sure. I try not to think about it because, as I said, I'm pretty straight down the line. If I'm thinking too far back or too far forward, my head would explode. I'm trying not to use cliches, but it is one day because my head will literally explode. There's another salad, but there's not much between the ears.
Oh, man. What I wouldn't give.
Spence, obviously you were in South Africa for that white ball series. I'm just keen to know what the players think about ODI cricket, just because there's heaps of chat at the moment about where that format is going, and if the death knell has already been, sounded out around the world. There's obviously a World Cup about to start, but are the players into the ODI cricket as much as they are sort of the franchise stuff?
It's a good question. I think they were more flat. That they couldn't play as much golf because we're back to back. Lots sore on the body. Where the T20s you'd play and you could literally play golf on the same day. So I think it could potentially be coming to the end, but with the World Cup in mind, the boys are quite focused on that. And as much as we would have liked to close the series out, I think they've got a bigger picture in the World Cup starting this week or next week.
Being like a new player in the Australian setup and understanding that, like, you know, golf is really the vehicle to increase your social capital. Are you, like, not so much cricket or performances? Like, are you a big golfer? Have you bought a private golf simulator at home just to sort of fit in with the boys a bit better? What's your relationship with the great game?
Yeah, well, not yet. I did actually come home and say, that's it, I'm taking it up, because there's a lot of time, a lot of downtime, good way to get around the boys, but I don't really have the mental capacity for golf. I've got 5 or 6 good holes, and then I'll clock off.
Spence, when you were over in America for the LA Knight Riders, it would have been great if you could actually go around and, you know, play the games in LA or, you know, again away in New York or whatever. But it was obviously just in down there in what are we looking at?
Grand Prairie.
Grand Prairie, thank
Dallas.
you. Yeah, down in Dallas in Texas. But what were you expecting when you went into MLC, and what did you actually see? Was it any good? Is what I'm asking, I suppose.
It was good. I wasn't expecting to be about 48 degrees and have heat stroke every day, but apart from the weather, it was pretty cool. Like that was my first franchise tournament, so I wasn't expecting a whole lot. Just to be around the change room with Lockie Ferguson and guys like that, Sonny Narayan, playing against guys like Kieran Pollard. That was pretty cool for me. I was a little bit in awe sometimes of who you're coming up against and who you're in the change room with. Coming from, obviously, club cricket change room to the best players in the world was quite cool. But I think once we do start playing games in LA and New York, I think it's going to be one of the most sought-after franchise tournaments after the IPL, definitely.
Everybody wants to make it in America, though, don't they? Like, surely the boys heading over there are just thinking, how good would it be to play in LA, New York, flying in between? The circuit would be unbelievable. Is that why you got involved first up? Surely the boys are seeing it that way.
Well, I've come back with a couple of cowboy hats and cowboy boots, so I think if that's anything to go by, me and Zams had a bit of a dress up one night, and I think that was a pretty funny night.
Well, hang on. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Because now I'm just thinking you're in a hotel room dressing up together, which is fine, by the way. But
no, well, I reckon I spent about $400 USD on kit going to the stockyards in Dallas, and we just watched some bulls run around and drank margaritas, and yeah,
that's good shit.
That sounds awesome. I want to ask you, Spence, about like in that white ball series. It just seemed like Australia had a really clear plan especially in ODI cricket, like where they were just trying to basically make it into a T20. Was that ever spoken about, like sort of elevating what England had tried to do 4 years previously? Was that spoken about?
I think definitely with that intent. Like, you look at Hedy's first ball with the T20, if you go back to that ball off Jansen, he tried to hit that to the moon. Series. I think that sort of set the tone, a bit like the Crawley 4 for the Ashes. I think we just wanted to set the tone, and that's how we want to play. We were losing wickets, and blokes were still scoring at 9 and over. So hopefully we bring that into the World Cup, and we can have a decent World Cup.
Spence, listening to your interview on BBC Stumped a couple of weeks ago or months ago, you're talking about representing Italy in cricket as well. Your Nonu, is that right? Migrated from Italy in his 20s, and you proudly represented them. Did you get any games? I got the impression with what you were talking about, you were sort of going to play, but then you got called out to called up to bigger and better things. But did you get to play any games for Italy and like absolutely frighten some other associate nations?
I wish. It would have made my international numbers probably look a little bit better than what they are. But no, unfortunately I didn't. It was the same time as the Major League in Texas, so I missed that one. But now that I've played for Australia, I think I've got to wait 3 years between my last Australia game. So it was something I was looking forward to. Ben Manenti, my South Australian teammate, had fun there. They just missed out on the T20 World Cup in America next year, so they're a little bit flat there. But I don't know. It would have been pretty cool to have a Forza Italia
Oh,
with Johnson on the back. Not very Italian.
that would have been so awesome because you had to get a passport, didn't you, to actually qualify for Italy? So then, does that mean you now just have dual passports anyway?
Yep. So I was rolling around too in London.
Oh yeah. Oh.
It was a bit of a party trick. Whenever you'd go out, you'd show your Italian passport, and it was did the job.
Hang on. Wait. What do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. What do you mean?
Two passports?
Yeah, it's just a talking point. You know, you start a conversation.
Oh, yeah, I'm Italian, and you just whip out the passport as well.
Yeah.
Put it out, and
Go on.
no, that's it. That's
That's it. Just whipped it out. Spencer, I just alluded to what I said earlier around a lot of people will be, and I know you'll be too humble to get into this because you're coming back from a hamstring, and obviously you want to go one day at a time. The current Australian team has been together as a group for many years. I think a lot of people here in Australia will be looking forward to some new trappings for the eyes and stuff like that. I heard on a recent interview you did that you were at Travis Head's wedding, and was it there that you got to meet the big bush horses like Cummins Stark and Hazelwood? Is that where you met them for the first time? What's that meeting of four thoroughbreds like at Heady's wedding? What are you guys discussing? Do you feel accepted into that cartel?
Well, yeah. To be fair, first time I met him, a few beers under the belt helps. But I did feel a little bit out of my depth there. That tiny bit taller, tiny bit fitter. They are different machines. It's pretty. And then obviously training with them, playing with them. But you know why they've been put on this earth to play Test cricket. So I guess they got around me a little bit. I didn't actually realise. This was just after the Aussie A, and they asked me how I went in New Zealand and how I enjoyed that. So it's pretty cool to see they're following along there. But yeah, they are thoroughbreds, proper thoroughbreds.
I mean, as soon as he got out the second passport, though, I mean, they would have been all over you.
Probably got that on a couple of them.
Yeah, I know you also said, speaking of, you said a bit taller, a bit fitter and stuff like that. Is that really the situation for you? I know you've come through a few stress fractures, which is like a badge of honour for fast bowling. So I think that holds you in good stead, as difficult as that would have been. Do you feel like the body's becoming harder and more unprepared for the rigours of higher level cricket? Is that your challenge?
Well, I think so. The last probably 12 to 18 to 2 years, I feel like my body's getting more durable. I've come out the other side of those bony injuries and joint injuries where I feel like I can string a few games together, but now it's sort of hopefully the soft tissues aren't too regular, but I've obviously missed a lot, so now I'm trying to catch it up, and hopefully those years I missed early can catch up at the back end. 27 now, so could have anywhere from 5 to 7 years that hopefully around the mark where I'm playing now.
Just finally from me, Spencer, just to kind of couch all of this in one go, like what's the difference between playing for West Torrens on the field than it is for playing for Australia against South Africa? And then probably more importantly, what's the difference in the sheds and the tubs, like in terms of culture, from West Torrens to international cricket?
Sheds, I don't know. I was in awe in the Aussie room, not by the size of the pieces, but just sitting down with. Just you look across. There's Steve Smith, David Warner. West Torrens. We've got the West Torrens. We do.
A couple of big boys looking about.
No, it is different. It's very different.
Are you saying there's a peace issue in the Australian team?
No, there wasn't a whole lot of tubbing. It sort of finished the game to the hotel. But at West Torrens, there's lots of tubbing. It's like a jail cell shower where everyone initiated in. So I'm not saying I miss it, but it's an experience.
None of us like it. We just pretend to, right? Just partition showers are the greatest thing that's happened in club cricket, right? Anyway, hey, I hope that was okay for you, Spencer. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope that's only the first rodeo for you on TGC. I hope there's a few more to come. But mate, all the best for getting the body right. Summer ahead. We want to see you. We want to see you steam in with that salad and everything else.
Beautiful. Thanks for having me on. We'll get better from there. I actually am quite nervous.
Hey, you seem good, brother. Yeah. And me too, though, by the way, just looking at you.
Well, that's what people say when I'm playing. They're like, why are you so calm? I'm like, I'm actually not calm. I've got no idea what's happening. That's why. Yeah. Aussie set field and I'll bowl and then it'll come out 140 and if he hits it for 6, it goes for 6. There's no... Keep it simple.
That's it, brother. Love it. Hey, thanks so much, man.
Thank you very much to Dan. Thank you very much to Spencer Johnson for joining us on the show for the first time, Pez, but perhaps not the last time. Who's to say? Unfortunately for Brady, that is his last performance. Quite weak, wasn't it, today, actually, from Dan?
In many ways, I have no idea.
Pez, before we get into hashtag AskTGC, this segment is brought to you by Ponting Wines, where you can use the code GETAFEW, Pez, and what do you get? You get 20% off at checkout when you use the code GETAFEW. Chuck it all in capitals to make yourself feel something. pontingwines.com.au.
You see Ponting popping up in some ICC clips? He's always part, like Ponting's always part of the official like sort of depiction, portrayal, communication in and around big tournaments.
Yeah.
Like
I saw it for the AFL Grand Final as well.
But I just can't remark enough on the feeling of safety upon seeing him. I feel like when the ICC is like, we got to get an Aussie.
Yeah.
Straight to punter.
Okay. Now, what do you want me to talk about here today? Okay, if you top of your head, what kind of wine do you feel like right now? I mean, it's 12:30.
Just gone 12.
It's 12:30.
2 o'clock somewhere.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. What do you feel like? If I was going to pour you something right now, what do you feel like?
Probably a like the sun's popping out here, but I do like a rouge, so I'm going to say a Pinot Noir.
Okay, yeah, Pinot Noir. Okay, yeah. Well, I'm going to go to a couple of options here. You've obviously got the 257, or you've got the Mowbray Boy. Do you want me to go the 257?
Yeah, I like a 257.
Yeah, the 257, the 257 Tasmania Pinot Noir 2021 from Ponting. This wine marks Ricky Ponting's milestone innings of 257 versus India at the MCG in 2000 on the 2003 Boxing Day Test. Remember that game?
He was impregnable in that game, unable to be impregnated.
Coming off a loss to India at the Adelaide Oval, Ricky plundered a career best 257 to bring the 2003-04 Border Gavaskar Trophy
to his mates.
Yeah, here he is.
Hey, Gavaskar.
He's Senny Gavaskar. Trophy back on level terms at the MCG. Here's what Ricky Ponting said. India were the toughest of competitors.
Oh, I bet they were after 257.
And they bowled well that day. They bowled so well.
Yeah. Javagal.
This made scoring my highest test score of 257 and back-to-back double centuries in consecutive tests, a cherished milestone of my career. That is a master at work.
Exactly.
That is a master at work. The 257 is made in a style to reflect the best of Tasmania. Ricky and I selected a single site in Meadowbank to create a milestone-worthy Pinot Noir. That's a quote from Ben Riggs. Pontingwines.com.au. You can get the full range there. If you go onto that website, use the code GETAFEW. You use that code, you punch it in the checkout, and you get 20% off. Hashtag AskTGC.
This is from Wooly. Me? This is from Wooly. Wooly starts it off with, Dear The Final Word Podcast. Shout out to the boys. Yeah. I thought I'd start my Ask TGC with a Fox Sports inspired headline to prompt more clicks. This is the headline. Disgraced debutante second grader is given the humiliation of being timed out after extremely mild sex story. My tale begins a decade ago. Fresh from a few years in threes, battling dog tracks and edging to blokes smoking durries at first and second slip, I was promoted to the twos along with a few other players from the club. Pre-season nets went without a hitch as our new captain assessed our talent in an effort to figure out the batting order. It's the first game and the 11 assemble in the sheds for the first time, awkwardly imitating Eminem with, "Hi, my name is..." to all the alpha blokes who hadn't attended a single preseason net. It's the stretch circle now, and all of a sudden the senior players start yelling random days one by one around the circle. Tuesday, one would say. Thursday, another. Friday, a few claps would ensue. I was catching on now. Monday, I lie, just to safely feel like I was somewhere in the middle. It's one of the other newbies' turns now. A bloke called Nav, who I've never seen before, steps up to the plate. As far as I'm aware, the bloke had just signed up to the club a few weeks prior and persuaded the club president that he had unbelievable pedigree and should be in the top teams straight off the bat. He was a little confused with the stretch circle game, so our captain proudly obliges by telling him that everyone in the team needed to say honestly the last time you had sex, and that the person closest to game day has to regale their story to the rest of the team. "Oh, this morning," Nav says sheepishly. The blokes are yahooing and clapping at Nav's quiet and honest answer, as it is clearly true, and he will have the opportunity to recount a truly unbelievable sex story. "Go on," ... our captain said. We were just trying for a baby." I haven't read this. Nav mentions in innocent, "Why are you asking me, way?" That's a shit story, Nav. You can bat 8 today for that, our captain said as he reached into his pocket for a coin to toss. "He can't be serious. I'm a top order bat," Nav says to the rest of the group. "He is, mate, and if you're not careful, you might have to score first too," the senior player says. With the reality of the situation sinking in, Nav trudges to his kit bag to look for his keys and wallet. "Going somewhere, Nav?" our captain asks after winning the toss and batting on a road. "Oh, I need to go home and check on my wife," Nav says nervously. "Okay, but make sure you're back in 30 minutes. You'll need to do a stint of scoring." Fast forward 45 minutes and we're up shit creek at 47 for 4. I walk out to bat 6 and peer in to see our captain taking off his kit. "Where's Nav?" he says as he throws his Harrow-sized kaboom against the wall in disgust. "No idea, Skip. He said he'd be back after seeing his wife." "I hope he has a better sex story after this little escapade," he side-mouths as he removes his box from one layer of budgie smugglers. I duly depart after chopping on and the score is 54 for 6 now. Still no Nav. "Where the fuck is he?" our captain blurts whilst pacing around the scorers. He panics further whilst another bloke falls and the score is 62 for 7. Then it becomes 70 for 8 and 77 for 9. Fuck! The opposition is standing around looking perplexed as we try and squeeze any remaining time for Nav to show. Nothing. Our captain trudges to the opposition skipper and umpires to say, "Innings closed, lads. We can't find our 11th player." The rest of our opposition burst with laughter as they take possibly the easiest wicket in the second grade history. 77 all out. Nav is recorded as timed out in the Crick HQ, brackets my cricket for skeletons, scorecard. As we saunter out to field, a white Toyota Prius pulls up and a flustered Nav leaps out as our opening bowler hurls the first ball. A slow clap ensues from both teams and Nav takes a spot at square leg knowing full well what he has done. My question is as follows. Is there anything more wheelie bin park shit than being given out timed out? Was this an elaborate ploy for Nav to come back to the game with a better sex story? Did Nav alpha our captain after being demoted to 8? Why do I have reoccurring dreams I get timed out because my pads are made of concrete? Yours in Patreon Bunce. P.S. attached to the scorecard for reference. Wooly.
Well, Wooly's always a great contributor to the...
That's a very Patreon-esque story.
He's a great contributor to the show generally, but also Patreon. Now, I've got one question here from Nav in that he just says, "Oh, I need to go home and check on my wife." Why?
Well, I think that's what Wooly's asking, isn't he?
Yeah. What the fuck did Nav do?
I tend to agree with Wooly that he like Nav. So Nav, I mean, let's just walk it back a few steps.
Okay.
Firstly, just anyone. Is this de rigueur to leave a fucking game of cricket?
It's not on.
I mean, it should be okay if you're not really to bat or be involved for a while as an adult. You should be probably allowed to do other things. But on the other hand, we all, police.
I'm the cricket police.
Who who leaves a cricket game for like administrative matters that aren't a matter of emergency.
This is the whole point. Like once you sign up to a cricket season and you turn up to the grounds,
Once you
like
get into the ground, you do not leave until the game is over.
we're all in this together. We are
Yeah.
all deep in the mire of this fucking
Yeah.
terrible sport,
Yeah.
and
You aren't allowed to move.
We wallow in the filth of the trough that is grade cricket. That's what we do.
Beautiful.
You cannot fucking leave for pastures greener. You fucking meek little.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let him cook. I'm like a poetry slam poetry. I'm a slam poetry.
So Nav has Nav has
so was he
shut
leaving?
the bed. This
But
is
like also
weak.
he's playing. So this is a standard of cricket where you're allowed to leave for like non-emergencies, right? Nav has turned up without being aware of any culture of stretching circle sex stories,
Yep.
which again indicates he's a normal functioning person.
Yeah.
But
And there's
if
no
he's
no
playing-
place for him.
If he's turned up to Parky's club wheelie bin stuff in New Zealand,
Yes.
right? and he's been put in twos, and he's been saying to the president, "I'm a top order bat."
Yeah.
How can he have been around the traps enough not to understand a stretching circle sex story protocol?
I'm sorry to say, Nav, who's obviously trying to
So he can't
start
play.
a family.
Yeah,
But like, you need to leave the club.
Well, like I do find the nexus of a normal man just going, I'm playing a recreation on a Saturday.
We're just
He's
normal men.
Yeah. He was asked when he last had sex, and as a normal man, you know what I mean? Like he earnestly replied this morning,
yeah.
like, "What's your fucking filthy sex
Yeah.
story, man?" It's like, we're just trying to have a baby. you
Yeah.
know?
But then to add to it, then it's like, I've got to go home and check on her. So what the fuck are you
I
playing
think
at,
Woolie's
Nav?
right, because Nav is just absolutely
His cricket police radar's going off. Woolie's
he's-
thinking, I'm the
he's-
cricket police. Wee-oh, wee-oh, wee-oh.
he's gobsmacked. Someone make a song about that. Just cut up Bigos doing that over and over, please. That's a song. Yeah, like he's just absolutely gobsmacked that he's told the truth. He's done everything asked of him. He's the man most recently having sex.
Yes.
No doubt the others who said their days have not had sex. Of course. Like maybe one guy will have,
Yeah.
I reckon.
Yeah.
And
Or at least seen it on the internet.
yeah. True. He actually gets punished. Like the captain's so upset that like he hasn't. It's kind of like I always imagined, like back in the Australia like Test era where they would invite a comedian to make everybody laugh in the circle before the day's play. Do you remember that? Like, and you'd have
No.
you'd have a like. I reckon we're looking at like around about turn of the century, 2000 to about 2003, maybe
that's high pressure.
a new John Buchanan initiative. The boys are bored. This is when they're getting Brett Lee in,
Yep.
blonde stuff, stories. But like,
Yep.
wheels just want to feel something.
Massive cock. Yep.
Yeah, of course. And absolute slug. And they're standing in a circle, and the channel couldn't, just had to pop out. and then
Absolute slug.
it was like a fucking a demon escaping.
Fucking demon just fucking exercising itself in you.
Just pops out. Sorry. Yeah, they're standing in a circle, and they would have
Right.
people like comedians, like funny known funny people.
Yeah, right.
Like address the team
Okay.
and tell a
I don't
joke
think I knew that.
to start the day. But it was back in the day when there was probably a decent and respectful distance between cameras and what we were allowed to see and what the
Yeah,
players were doing.
right,
It
yeah.
was sacred because they were in the trenches and shit. And I always imagined that they were actually like ostensibly they were telling a joke, but actually they were just regaling with the filthiest sex story they had. And everyone was just fucking all ears. That's what I'm imagining here with this.
Yeah.
Like the captain is going like, this is how in our club, this is how we start the day.
Yeah.
Like, so if you're just going to give us the limpest story, well, not the appropriate word, but you
can fuck off to wait.
You don't even get to bat in the top order anymore. You know, I think that this bloke has gone home to improve the story.
Okay.
Or maybe he's gone wow, this experience is so toxic and dysfunctional. I am like, and I've actually left my wife for whom we're trying to start a family and, realize some of our most important and sacred dreams in our life. I've left my wife to experience this. I just wanted to have a bat. And now I'm not even allowed to bat because I told the truth that I'm trying to start a family. I'm going to go back to my wife now.
Thank you very much to Dan Bredig for joining us. Thank you very much to Spencer Johnson for joining us. And thank you for joining us on the internet and through the eyes and through the ears.